Hi everybody, I'm Leah of seejanedrill, and if you're wondering what's resting on my shoulder, well, it's a piece of crown molding. And I got to tell you, nothing confuses a DIYer more than how do you cut crown molding? And how do you cut it where you're not wasting money? Well, I'm going to show you next. Let's get started. Okay, so this is our mock-up here, okay? This represents an outside corner. This is a wall, this up here, well, that's our ceiling. Now we're going to just say for the sake of argument that this is a perfect 90-degree outside corner. Now what makes crown molding so difficult to cut is the fact that it doesn't rest flush on the wall. If it did, a simple miter cut would work, but it doesn't work because it doesn't rest flush against the wall. Instead, it rests on both the ceiling, see it rests on the ceiling, and it also rests on the wall. And it creates something called a spring angle. If you come in close, I'll show you what the spring angle is. So that's what a spring angle looks like. See that dead air space there? Well, here's the thing. The spring angle, it creates a need to do something called a combination miter cut. Now, I've got a piece of crown molding here, and I'm going to show you what makes this a little more difficult. Why it's not a simple miter cut, okay? This is called a combination miter cut. Now, I've brought the two pieces together, okay, to make this perfect corner. Okay, so I've taken that piece of crown molding and I've set it up against the wall so you can see the 45-degree diagonal cut on the face. But check this out. There's another 45, and let me show you where it is. Okay, so I've pulled it away from the wall so you can see this better. Now remember there's that 45-degree face cut on the crown molding? Well, check this out. On the side, there's also another 45-degree cut. And see, that's what makes it a combination miter cut. And that's why crown molding is so very tricky to cut sometimes. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to cut crown molding for an outside corner. You take your crown molding and you rest it against the wall, decorative edge against the wall, okay? And least decorative edge up against the ceiling. So it's resting. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to make certain that you extend the crown molding out past the corner. Take a Sharpie or take a pencil, either one, and what you want to do is you want to draw a reference line for yourself. Okay, so I've got my reference line drawn, and what you have to remember is this reference line, it is only a reminder for us which direction to set the blade on the miter saw. That's all that's for. Okay, so I'm going to take my crown molding away and I'm going to move it to my miter saw. And I'm going to set it up on my miter saw exactly the same way it rests up against the wall and the ceiling because of the spring angle. But can you see what the problem is? The problem is there's nothing for the crown molding to rest against. And if we tried to make that cut just holding it like that, that would be a very dangerous cut and it would be very difficult to do. So what we'll do is we'll just rest it up against the fence here. This is a fence. We'll just rest it up against the fence. And now, if you notice, our reference line of which way to turn the blade, it changed. And it's because of that spring angle. So if we were to make that cut, it would be totally wrong. So what we'll do next is, remember this reference line here? It's there to remind us which way to turn this blade. So I'm just going to move the blade to the other side. Okay, so what I've done is I've moved the miter saw to the other side, to the other 45. So now we've got our blade in line, okay, with our reference line. That's what we want, right? But here's the thing. If we make that cut, it's still wrong. And why is it still wrong? Because with us just tipping it forward, it not only changed the direction that the blade needed to go, it changed the angle of that miter cut. Remember I showed from the top? Well, that's changed too. So this is where the trick comes in. And I'm sure you've seen this before. What you have to do to make certain that the miter cut on the top is going the right way, you gotta flip it. You gotta flip it and bring it over. And now you make the cut. So I got my reference line there, and remember, the reference line is so that we don't forget which direction to set the blade. So we know it's right where it needs to be. Now I'm gonna make that cut right now. Okay, so this is the board that we just cut. If you can see, I've made our diagonal cut here on the face of it, and then we've got a little 45 miter cut up at the top. We've made our adjustments. Now we're going to put it in place. Okay, so we've got the piece that we cut. I've already stuck one piece up so we can get a true corner, right? Well, it's the moment of truth. This is when we find out whether or not it's perfect. Here we go. So this is how you cut crown molding for an outside corner. This is Leah saying you can do this. See you next time.